is an Unspoiled Network podcast. This is Unspoiled, covering The Leftovers, Season 3, Episode 4. G'day, Melbourne! In this episode, we're talking away. I don't know what to say, but I'll say it anyway. Today is another day to podcast. Welcome to Unspoiled.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Did you catch on to what I was doing there?
I did. I picked up what you were laying down.
Yeah, so I've been using like the theme songs from each episode in the opening of each episode of our show. But the theme song for this episode was something other than Take On Me.
Yeah.
I hope y'all are ready for me to just have used Take On Me for the intro. Because if I have a chance to use that song, of course I'm gonna. But everybody, hi, I'm Natasha.
And I am Rashawn.
And in this show, Rashawn is the one who has seen all of the leftovers, and I am the one who doesn't know what the fuck is going on. So, this episode...
But really, nobody knows what's going on, so...
That is a fair point, actually. That's actually... I could say the same thing of a couple of shows that I record on. Twin Peaks being the more recent. So this episode was full of surprises.
Yeah, this was a hard episode. There was a lot of sadness in this episode.
Yeah, like...
Yeah.
It's just... It's like... I think they really captured nicely how fights go when you know somebody really well.
Yes.
You know, you just sling the thing that is going to hurt them the most.
Oh, and you just pull it out so easily. You didn't even know it was there in your holster and it was time to pull it out.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, it's right there like magic.
Yep.
Like, oh, what's the thing I could say that will hurt the most? And you think you have to dig for it, but you don't. It's just
no,
right
because
there.
part of you really believes it. It's not even that you're just like, oh, I just want to hurt you. It's that it's the thing that it just so happens it will really hurt them because it's also the thing you never say out loud because you know it will hurt them.
Yep.
But
the theme
you've
song,
been thinking it though.
For the opening credits, the song is called "This Love Is Over." By the by.
Bummer.
Yeah. So there you
Not
go.
that we didn't know that, but so yeah, this episode starts off with Nora totally leaving Kevin.
Yeah, because she's got global entry. What did you think before? And they tell us immediately afterwards what the deal is. But what did you think as you're watching them check in, and then Nora's like, "Oh, I have global entry. I'm just going to go now," and leaving Kevin there. I
knew that she couldn't do this because that's not how airlines work. But if I hadn't known that this was not a possibility, I would have thought she was trying to leave without him.
What do you mean that's not how airlines work? Are you saying that there's not any kind of...
I'm saying that she can't go get on the plane, be like, I'm here, let's go, and they just leave. Like, they will wait for their passengers. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Okay, I see what you mean.
So, yeah, I thought, for an instant, I was like, is she trying to fucking bail on him? Like, then I was like, did she get a ticket to somewhere else and not tell him? But she was like, we heard the phone conversation.
Yeah.
So I knew that wasn't it.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that she's smuggling money, which I didn't know about this restriction. Did you know
I did. Well, yeah, I did, just from years for working for banks.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so it turns out she's just skirting security because she's got all this money taped to her body. Mm-hmm. And I love Kevin when he goes, "Why didn't you just give me half?"
And she just goes, huh.
Right? Like, oh, I hadn't thought of that.
Yep.
But she doesn't answer.
No.
Because we already know the answer. She hasn't thought of it. Like she
Nope.
doesn't think of Kevin as being an accomplice in this.
Yeah, it's interesting because she's like, I didn't want to tell you about this, but I'm also being pretty open with you now.
Yeah.
You know, it's like an interesting sort of...
Yeah. It's our first clue that she is on a solo mission. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah.
From the gate, you know, she's on a one-way solo mission.
To be honest, I never thought that she would tell him anything. The fact that she told him as... Not really. Like...
I thought so.
This is just such a sketchy thing that I can totally understand not wanting to tell somebody. Especially because I don't feel like Nora has a good idea what she's doing either. I think is really the main thing. Like,
agreed.
You know, she's acting like, oh, I'm going to go catch them. And I'm like, are you? Because...
It doesn't seem like it.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that. So I could see her not saying anything to him because she isn't even clear.
Like her on the surface, she's very much like, oh, I'm on a case and I'm going to catch these bad guys that are scamming people. Mm-hmm. But every move she makes belies that. Right. Including the fact that she doesn't include Kevin in the fact that she needs to smuggle this money in. Mm-hmm. Like if she were really sincerely just trying to go and catch these people and nail them because they're scam artists, then why wouldn't you include Kevin? But that's not what she's doing, which is why she didn't think to include Kevin, because she's really on this it's just me, you know? Yeah. She's really not thinking about Kevin. I mean,
when the woman at security asks, are you two together? She doesn't answer, and it's Kevin who like, looks at Nora and then looks at the woman and says, yes, yes, we are. Like,
And even though like hot, gross sex in a public bathroom might do it for some people, you kind of get the feeling that this is her almost distracting Kevin,
him. Mm-hmm.
You know, and trying to convince him that they really are still a team, even though he obviously feels that something is amiss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just like... I don't know. This whole thing, I just feel so bad because it really is it's such a strange situation that people don't normally deal with, but it's a really great illustration of a relationship between two decent people who are wanting the best for each other. It's still just falling apart. They're just not in it together, you know?
Yeah, and it's people that we've been kind of rooting for. Mm-hmm. And it's also people that we've known from the beginning of the series. So we know how fucked up they are. We know how unlikely it is that they are going to get a happy ending. Mm-hmm. And yet, throughout it all, for me anyway, I find myself still hoping that somehow they manage to make it. Right?
You know, like... I think it's just the two of them have suffered so much loss. And it's not a logical thing because they could find what they want in someone else. But because we know the two of them and the particular difficulties that they've had, we're like, no, now kiss. Fix it. Just, you know.
Yeah. Because, like, if you want to be an optimist about it, you could say they could still find it in each other if they would just try. Mm-hmm. But by the time we get to the end of this episode, you see all the ways that they failed to try. You know? Like all the ways it didn't work. It's heartbreaking. I know I say that all the time about the show, but it really is. It's just fucking heartbreaking.
And that's like the thing about so many relationships though, right? Is that you can see, like, I feel that way all the time about me and Brendan. Is that people who knew us were rooting for the two of us together because it seemed like it should work.
I was.
Right?
Yep.
I was too, in a way, even though a lot of me was like, yeah, but that's not. And it's just, there's a series of choices that we make that lead to a conclusion. And we don't realize that the choices we're making are as significant as they are in the moment that we're making them. Right. But they start to collect and add up and domino affect each other until you're looking back at this and realize that you made your decision way before you realized you made your decision, you know?
I remember having met you and Brendan and been out with you guys socially,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and seeing you as sort of a team
Mm-hmm.
and being like, this couple is, you know, they've got it figured out.
Yep.
Like, to see you two together is like, oh shit, this is what you want.
That's like so many friends of mine when I started to talk about, because I didn't talk to people about it for a while. And then when I was like, hey, yeah, we hadn't had sex in 8 months, people were like, what?
Yeah,
like,
it's hard to believe.
They just assumed that we were always banging because we were always like playing against each other when we were out. And like, you know, and yeah, it's just...
Yeah. You guys were like fucking Martin and Lewis, you know? Really? You know, you were like one of the great fucking teams to see.
And that's one of those things that's like, you know, I didn't realize that I was making a choice that was going to lead to us never being able to be friends again.
Yeah.
You know, I chose that. And I, like, part of me wishes I didn't make the choice I did. And another part of me is like, it couldn't have gone another way.
Yeah.
You know, it could have, but I still feel like it really couldn't. Somehow or other, it was still going to end up here.
Yeah, I don't think it could have gone another way either. I mean, I don't know for sure, but if you were interested in a third party who has no idea, I'm here to give you that opinion. And I feel like it couldn't have gone another way. But it was a shock to me because, you know, again, seeing you together, like like, God, they're fucking so in sync. Like, you know, Jesus Christ, this is what it's supposed to be like. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that that's not all it is.
Yeah, the NSYNC thing, it was like, that's the thing, is that people see the NSYNC thing, and that was an intellectual thing. We were completely in sync that way. But that's not all it takes. But that's all that other people ever get to see, hopefully, unless you're into that. So
no judgment.
You know, whatever, if you like. But I just, you know, that's the podcast. I would just get so many listeners. Like, you guys are couple goals all the time.
Yeah, and I can see that.
When we first started podcasting, I took that as a huge compliment. And then as time went on, the more I got that, the more I was like, oh God, this is going to be rough. Like, anyway, can we talk for a real quick second about how angry Kevin coming down the escalator is hot as hell? Just for a second.
Jesus Christ.
When he looks at her and he's all mad, I'm just like, why are you so attractive when you're angry? And then she just fucking walks up and, because he's like, what are you smuggling? Either you're just trying to ditch me or you're smuggling something.
I love this moment too because Kevin is not an idiot. And
nope.
You know, he's a cop. He knows what the fuck he knows.
Yep.
And he knows immediately that she's smuggling something.
Yep.
And she doesn't lie.
No.
So it does this thing where it's like convinces us as the audience that, oh, wait, no, they're going to be back on the same page. Mm-hmm. Right? They're going to be a team again. And then they have like the bathroom sex scene and you think it's all good, but it totally isn't.
Yeah, the sex scene like really caught me off guard for a second. And then once I realized, like, not even necessarily that this was just her like, it was her manipulating him, but I feel like it was such an unconscious thing that they're so used to distracting each other that it's not like they set out for this, you know? Like,
it's not her just being like, oh, I'm going to distract you from your real questions, Kevin. Mm-hmm. It's not that at all. Mm-hmm. This is going to sound gross, but he wants it as much as she does. They want like to remind themselves or pretend or whatever there's a connection that they have that supersedes all of this nonsense, right? Like if they can just get back to that thing, everything else will be okay. And you get the feeling that this is not the first time that they've resorted to this, even though it's the first time we've seen it in this season. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like every time they come upon a hard conversation, this is how they resolve it.
Yeah, that's probably true. And they're talking about like the what do you call it? Testimonials and whatnot.
Right.
Like the voiceover while they're having sex, which just threw me for a second because I really thought that they were talking about it while they were having sex. And I was like, this is a very, if you're like, because initially I'm like, okay, she's distracting him, but then they're talking about it while they're having sex. And I'm like, well, maybe not. But then I realized that was happening later when they're sitting next to each other and have no choice but to have a conversation, finally,
Right.
basically. And he points out at this point that she does not have any jurisdiction in Australia, and she looks real sketchy about that. She says technically that's true, which means, you know, something is amiss here.
Yeah.
That she's planning to do another thing on her own.
What did you think about her motivation throughout this? Because we don't find out until I feel like the end of the episode where Nora truly was.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't see her desperation until the end of the episode when they're like, yeah, no, we're done here.
Mm-hmm.
All the way up to that point, she's playing it very much like, you know, I'm here to catch you in a lie, and I'm here to tell you that you're full of shit.
Right.
But how much of that did you believe?
I honestly didn't really believe any of it. Like,
Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it in from my perspective, I would immediately assume this was bullshit, that it was a big scam. But if it looked like it were for real, I think that there would be a huge part of me that would want to take that step depending on where I was in my life. And where Nora is in her life is that she doesn't have anything.
Right.
Her connection with Kevin has deteriorated. Lily is gone, and she doesn't have anything. So I was expecting it to look like it was potentially a real thing, and for her to suddenly decide, I'm going to do this actually, never mind. Like, she was going to treat it like it was a scam in order to have an excuse to go check it out. And then she would, you know, do an about face.
Right.
Once she actually was able to ascertain if it was legit or not.
Yeah. And they don't really give her a chance to come to a decision whether it's a scam or not, because they tell her she's not wanted. You know?
Yeah.
You're not for this. This isn't for you.
Yeah,
And then
we'll
she
get
can-
to that. I
yeah.
don't, but I have things to. I have theories on that one. So when they get to the hotel, she pulls out the book. I say that with a capital B. The book, and Kevin says that he's read it while she was asleep.
Right.
And so she tries to like test him because he clearly didn't.
But he
And-
knows because
but
it's
he
his fucking
knows.
life.
Yeah, she's like, oh, well then what happens next? And he's like, he pushed her in the well.
Yeah.
And he's like, she says, Jesus, where does Matt come up with this stuff?
And he doesn't say anything.
Nope.
Which I thought was a really interesting point, because we don't know as the audience. I mean, we are able to fill in the blanks, but we never see as the audience anybody relating the story to Matt or anyone else.
Right.
So Matt seems to have a lot of details in this book.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we're supposed to think Kevin told Michael everything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And Michael's the one who told Matt.
Yes.
Right. That's
That's
gotta
what
be,
I would assume.
That's gotta be what happened. But he hasn't
Michael
told
seems
Nora.
like the most likely person to like entrust that stuff with, because you
Right.
really think he's not going to say anything to anybody.
Right. And
Like,
Michael's the one who when Kevin, crawls out of his grave, Michael's who's there.
yes.
Right. But it becomes clear that Kevin hasn't told Nora this stuff.
Oh,
Because-
definitely
Because
not.
she hits with where does Matt come up with this? And I feel like as the audience, we kind of assumed that Kevin had been super honest with Nora about everything.
I didn't.
I kind of did. I was like, oh, he must have told her everything.
Like, and why I hadn't assumed that is like he actually just flat out states that during their fight at the end.
Well,
It's
yeah.
because when he told her that he was seeing a dead person, she just fucking up and left. So
Yeah.
and it seemed like they had that kind of heart to heart after that whole thing with him trying to kill himself, kind of, and but they didn't actually. They say enough to fool themselves into thinking that they
Right.
had a real breakthrough, but they never
Right.
actually say everything.
And that comes out, like you said, at the end of this episode. We find out just how much they don't talk. I mean, Kevin just says, we never talk about anything. But up until this moment, I, as a viewer, had just made a wild assumption that Kevin had told Nora everything.
Okay.
So when this scene happens at the end of this episode, I was like, oh my God, he didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
She only has bits and pieces. She pretty much only knows what we saw Kevin tell her. Which is like the stuff about seeing Patty and all that.
Right. And it's just so, because she has gone through so much that it's easy to forget that nothing she's gone through has been supernatural or paranormal seeming.
Right, right.
So it's easy to be like, why doesn't he just tell her? But the grounding in the real world that she has is not compatible with the crazy shit that's happened to him.
Yeah.
So there's no reason for him to think she can handle it.
Exactly.
The only evidence that he has is the one time that she completely bailed.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
which was a bummer for me because in my own head, I had imagined this entirely different relationship between Kevin and Nora. Like in my head, they were 100% on the same page and she knew everything that had happened to them. Even though there was no reason for me to think that. I just sort of created that, mythology for them as a couple.
You wanted it to be true because you like them.
Facts.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So she gets her call from these people who are like, we aren't going to wait for you.
Excited she got, and Kevin was looking at her
freaked.
like, who the fuck is this?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if I were him, I'd have been like, are you like seeing somebody or what's going on? Like, be like,
something.
She's having some online affair, and then her boyfriend is like, can I come with you? And she's like, sure. And she leaves after they make it clear that they will not wait. Which, once you actually see their operation, I don't see that they wouldn't wait. I think that's bullshit.
I don't know. They got in that car pretty fast, though.
They did, but like they were also just dicking around on the piano when she got there, and it seemed like they were, And then Good Day Melbourne begins, and he can't turn it off. And he calls down to the desk, and they're like, "Oh, we can reset it from down here." But then they get his attention when they're like, "Oh, sure hope nobody who's watching's named Kevin." And he's like, excuse me? And I thought for a second that this was about to be some more supernatural shit, but it's just them talking about how a police chief has gone missing. And this random old dude from America has also gone missing. Which I found surprising that anybody was even looking for Kevin Sr. Mm-hmm. Like, the fact that he's been reported missing is just sort of surprising.
I thought it was interesting that I would have thought that he would have been reported as sort of a menace, but he's reported as just missing. So I was like, well, okay.
Yeah, right. I was just sort of thrown by that.
Yeah, but maybe that's a thing in civilized countries. I would know about that because I live in America.
Yeah. Yeah, so he's like watching when they mention his name, and he sees Evie, and he gets flipped out. Of course, this is the moment when the guy at the front desk has chosen to reset his television. And I felt bad for the guy at the desk, because here's this guy, turn it off, turn it on now, like asking him all these crazy questions. And he finds out where Good Day Melbourne is filmed, because they're doing it live, and jumps in a cab and goes straight there. And we also have a little moment of him reading this book. Right. And just the little like bits and pieces of it. Yeah. And him having memories of what happened.
So he sees what he thinks is Evie in the crowd of Good Day Melbourne. Mm-hmm. And she's holding this sign that says S03E04. 81.
I didn't even notice that sign.
Yeah, she's, how people do when they're like outside of Good Morning America or whatever.
Yeah.
And what she's holding is a scripture from the Quran.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
Yeah.
So what is it? Do you know?
And I did. I
know.
saved it. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. I always choke in these moments. I'm like, I know I saved it, but where is it though? Hang on.
That photo of his dad, he looks so rough. Oh my god.
Oh my god. All right. So I won't read the whole thing because it's kind of long, but Surah 81 is I don't know what you call them. I don't think you just call them scriptures, but for lack of a better word, and excuse my ignorance, it's sort of a verse from the Quran, and it is, when the sun is wrapped up, and when the stars fall dispersing, and when the mountains are removed, and when the full-term she-camels are neglected, and when the wild beasts are gathered, and when the seas are filled with flame, and when the souls are paired, and when the girl who was buried alive is asked, for what sin was she killed? And then it just kind of goes on from there.
And when the girl who was buried alive was asked, for what sin was she killed?
Mm-hmm.
That is very upsetting. I don't like any of that.
And when the pages are made public, and when the sky is stripped away, and when hellfire is set ablaze, and when paradise is brought near, a soul will then know what it has brought. So I swear by the retreating stars, those that run their courses and disappear, and by the night as it closes in, and by the dawn when it breathes, that indeed the Quran is a word, a noble messenger. And then it kind of goes on from there.
That's very long.
So that's what she's holding. This girl who is not Evie.
Huh. I don't really know what to make of that other than for what sin was she killed. You know, that feels like obvious, but...
So yeah, he sees her on the television, hops in a cab to get to where the studio is, basically corners and assaults her.
Yeah, he completely, like, the fact that a dude came out and was like, is he bothering you? I was like, oh, nice. Thank you. Appreciate it. There's somebody watching out. And it's so funny because I saw that guy and I was like, this motherfucker plays rugby and he is about to get headbutted. And sure enough, that is exactly what happens. And I was cackling. Like, I'm not that I don't root for Kevin most of the time, but it was...
Well, when Kevin is being all fucking crazy,
yeah,
someone needs to headbutt him.
It's just the only way to shut this man down is like physical violence. So
but
what are you going to do?
He takes a picture of her.
You have to come back, girl.
Oh, he takes a picture of her after, right before he's headbutted, he takes a picture.
Right.
Gets cracked in the head, and he's so sure of what he saw. Mm-hmm. But he calls Lori. Of all the people he could call.
Yeah. Which, I mean... there's something in him that knows this doesn't make any sense. Somebody needs to talk me down from this. Right. But at the same time, the fact that she starts to do that infuriates him.
Yeah, and this whole delusion of his goes on for quite a while.
Yeah, it holds solid. Like, to a point where it feels like the fact that she was able to snap him out of it felt a little unbelievable to me.
Right.
In the moment that she does, like, why does she know right then to say, look at the picture again? Because he had just looked at it.
That's the thing, though. We never see him look at the picture.
I mean, when he sent it to her,
he snaps it and sends it. We never get a frame of him looking at or appreciating the picture he took. I mean, I'm sure he had to look at it to send it. But as viewers, we never get a frame of him appreciating the picture he took. So what did you think? Because it's a while before we realize it's not Evie. So as you're watching this, what did you think?
Well, for a second, with her accent, I'm not thinking, oh, the show is showing me Evie, but what I'm seeing isn't what is really there. I'm thinking I'm seeing But I figured that it was somebody who just looked a lot like her. Then when we get a close-up of her, and she's talking to him for a while, but her voice she still has this accent, and it doesn't feel like, an invented thing. It doesn't sound like a put-on accent. Right. I was like, I don't know what to make of this, because this is clearly the same actress. Am I supposed to think that she is a different person, or that she has somebody out there who just looks a lot like her? Or I was just confused because of them clearly using the exact same actress, but her voice being different, what I was supposed to be hearing here.
It was a really interesting thing they did with the show, I think, where in the past, when Kevin has these moments, when he goes to the hotel and all the shit with Patty, it is clear that we are seeing what Kevin is seeing. Right. And this time they did this thing where, as a viewer, you're not 100% sure. Like, I thought it was fairly obvious that we were seeing what Kevin was seeing, but I didn't think it was obvious that we were supposed to know what Kevin was seeing wasn't real. Right. If that makes sense. Yes. So that even though it's kind of hokey, later on when we have the moment where Kevin realizes that the girl he's looking at, and she's Evie one moment, and then the camera pans to Kevin, and then it pans back, and it's a different actress. And you're like, oh shit, I was just in Kevin's head. Right. This is not even, what I'm seeing isn't what I thought I was seeing. Yeah. Normally in a show, I might call bullshit on something like that. I might be like, oh, that's cheap. But because I have such an affection for this show, I was like, okay, all right, yeah, you guys have that.
See, I would never call that cheap because of what I feel like they're trying to do. The goal here is clearly they want the audience to feel as disoriented, confused, frightened, frustrated as he does. And there's no way to get across without us watching it and from the exact perspective that he's seeing everything. There's no way for us to understand why he's reacting almost violently to her. Like he almost, it feels like shakes her.
Yeah, he does. He's angry at this Evie he thinks he sees. He says more than once, like, why are you doing this? Yeah. One thing I think was interesting, and I think I had this reaction when I watched it originally, but I felt it even more so this time around, was it's not like in the past. Like this jump that Kevin makes to seeing Evie feels like, what the fuck even? Like, where's this coming from? Like, you were just okay an episode ago. Right, yeah. Right? And so when when Lori says, how are you and Nora? Later, you're just like, oh shit, okay. Kevin is clearly understanding on some level that Nora is leaving him. Yeah. Even though he can't really articulate it yet, and he doesn't really understand what's happening. It feels like it's a reaction to him understanding on some level that whatever his base or foundation is with Nora is kind of crumbling, because Nora is off on her own deal.
And that's why he asked to come. Her being like, okay, I have to go to Australia. And he's like, well, can I come with you? Yeah.
How great is it when Lori is like, you ran to escape, and he's like, no, I didn't. I just came with Nora. Oh, man.
And then he tells Lori, like, oh, she's here for work, even though he knows perfectly well that's not why she's there.
Yep. And Lori makes a very good point. Like, dude, you have responsibilities. You're the chief of police. What are you even doing right now?
Yeah, the anniversary is 7 days away, and you just fucking bailed, and you didn't tell anybody.
And you don't tell anybody.
We didn't know that he just left without saying anything to anybody, but it makes sense that he would have to do it that way, because nobody would be letting him go. Yep. Nobody would be like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. Just run off with your girlfriend to Australia for no fucking reason. Yep. So yeah, I think that like the moment where he finds out that Nora is not there for work was kind of the moment that things started to like go haywire in his head.
Yeah.
Because he realized like that she was not only lying to him, but clearly lying to herself too. And that's a different thing. Like you don't fight that. That person has to figure that out for themselves, and you can't force it. Or it's basically like the self-delusion thing. You have to indulge them in their self-delusion.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because otherwise
it's dangerous.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that look on his face when she gets that phone call in the hotel room is everything we needed to know.
Yeah.
You know, he looks so shocked at how she reacts to that phone call. Even though I don't know if he should have been so shocked. You know? Part of me is like, Kevin, you knew that, though. Didn't you?
I mean, why would he, though? Because she doesn't fucking share anything.
I feel like on some level he had to have known that, though. I mean, maybe I'm being unfair, but I really do. I really do feel like on some level he had to have known that, because this is not a stranger to him.
It's not even that I disagree with you that on some level, but like people are really good at convincing you that even though I'm not the person I want to be yet, I'm trying and I'm getting there.
That's true.
And I think that's where he was at, was that he knew that she was struggling with this shit, but she has convinced him that she's really putting in an effort to get past it. And then he's seeing very clearly that she's not even putting forth the effort, and that, because that's, I think, like what recurred with me in my relationship was that I like kept on being reassured. No, I'm trying. I hear you. I'm trying. And then you would get the actual evidence in front of your face that no, they're not trying. Yeah. But you want them to be, and they tell you in such convincing terms that they are, that you let yourself give them the benefit of the doubt, really, you know, like even though a part of you knows better, you're like, but you benefit of the doubt. You really want them to be doing better. That's
what makes that end scene so hard when he walks out. When he's finally like, you know, what are you going to do to get past it? Do you even want to get past it? It's like all this stuff that's been unsaid that he's been wanting to say. That has probably been needed to say.
Some of it, I think, it's like such a hard thing. Yeah. We'll get there. So back to Nora. She has to catch this bus. And some woman comes up to her and is like, hey, random lady at a bus stop,
do you have kids?
My baby. I'm like, this is the worst. I love
that you said, do you have kids? Because I would have been like, nope.
Right?
And I'd have been off the hook.
Yeah, she doesn't even say, she says, are you a mother? Yeah. Which is very carefully worded. Yeah. And this woman's like, they won't hire me if they see me walk in with this baby, which I'm like, probably not, but also find somebody who's not waiting for a bus. Like, go into the restaurant and hand the baby off to somebody who's in the someone who's staying put. This woman is in line to get out of town, and you're coming over her and handing over your child. Who you pick. Yeah, not a good choice, lady. And then the dude who is sitting there is like, whoa, you're a nice person to just take that woman's baby. She could run off and you never see her again. Which I half expected to be what happened in this fucking show, you know? Find out that there was no interview and that the woman fucking disappeared. And Nora later thinks that this woman was a plant. Yeah, it kind of would, right? Mm-hmm. But Nora thinks that this woman was a plant and that they set her up. And I don't buy that at all.
No, I don't either.
They're like, we don't know what you're talking about. And I was like,
I thought they were totally believable in that denial. But yeah, so eventually she makes the bus and she shows up at this place with the two physicists and some rando doctor. Right. And they give her a physical. They put her in like the I don't even know what to call it. They put her in some kind of box.
Yeah, because they're like, there'll be close confines in this place, so we try and test people and make sure that they can handle it.
And Nora's fine.
Totally, like, people normally get flipped out in there, but apparently she was, like, practically asleep. Really.
Yeah, like, she looked like she was just waking up from a nap.
Yep.
And so everything seems like it's going along. And there's two doctors. There's two physicists. There's one they're fucking playing Take On Me when Nora walks in.
Yeah.
But okay. And one of them is really dismissive.
Yes.
And kind of like shady.
She is hilarious. Like, she's just basically like, I mean, I'm doing the experiment, but I'm not going to fucking go.
Yeah.
I'm not stupid. Like, I was like, God damn, okay, Jesus.
And so everything seems like it's going fine. And then they ask Nora a question.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if I remember correctly, you guessed from the last episode.
Yes. Which is a weird thing that I guessed that. But, yeah, the question is, if, you had to kill a baby, but it would cure cancer.
Mm-hmm. There's two babies. One lives and cures cancer, but you have to kill the other one.
Mm-hmm. And you wouldn't actually have to kill the baby, but nodding your head would cause it.
Right.
And she asks what I asked, which was, like, will the baby suffer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that whole thing.
And she also asks, is it my baby? Like, are these my children?
Right.
And the answer is no.
Yeah, first one woman's like, that's irrelevant. And she's like, it is relevant if you want me to answer your fucking question. She gets real mad.
Because Nora always has attitude.
Yep.
So, what do you think the right answer is?
I don't think there's a right answer. I think it's how you answer.
So you don't think they're looking for a particular answer?
No, because the other guy said that he said no.
That's true.
And he lit himself on fire because they wouldn't take him, evidently. That's what I got out of that. So what I think is maybe part of it was her being like, well, it's not my baby, right? So who fucking cares? But I have a feeling that she lied.
Oh.
She was like, oh, yeah. No, I would kill the baby because plus I get to cure cancer and it's just a baby.
Yeah.
Kids die all the time. Whatever.
So you think she's full of shit?
I think she's full of shit. She would never kill a baby after everything that she's gone through. Oh my God, of course she wouldn't.
So do you think killing a baby but not giving a fuck is the right answer?
I don't think it's about the baby. I think it's about being honest with yourself about who you are. I think they want people who know what they're doing and why they're doing it.
Okay.
And are going into things with their eyes open about what to expect and hope for. And here comes somebody who doesn't even want to admit that she wants to do this. So she's trying to act like she thinks the whole thing is a scam.
All the way through the end, all the way to the very last minute, she's still pretending like she's like on the fucking case.
Yeah. And I think that they can sense that that she's just, that she's somebody that I feel like you could argue, not that she's not of sound mind, but that she is not in a fit state of mind to consent.
Right. Okay. Well,
like, so yeah, I think that's really what it is. Cause she and this other dude gave totally different answers
and neither one of them
got rejected.
Right.
And so I'm wondering, did the guy say no and he really would have? And they kind of knew that. Like,
right. Oh, okay.
But I think that's what I would sort of look for. It's just somebody's mental state and where they are,
Like why they said whatever their answer was.
Exactly.
Is more important than whatever their answer was.
Yeah.
So they do the physical, she does the closed compartment thing. They ask her the question. They don't like how she answers it. And they tell her, we're done here.
They tell her and they get up and get into their car.
She loses her shit.
Yeah, she does.
Like, whatever facade she was managing to maintain up until this moment is completely gone. And you see how desperate she is. And I feel like at this moment, if you didn't believe she was really in it to win it, at this moment you realize, oh, Nora was going to do that shit.
Yeah, she was.
She was going to do it. Like, she was going to leave Kevin. She was going to leave Miracle. She was on her way out if they had told her it was okay. Were you surprised by that?
No.
Because
like I said, like, it just seemed like she has no real reason to stay here.
Right.
And there is no way for her. I feel like the main thing driving her is curiosity. Like, she wants to be with her kids again also. I do think that's, like, of course, an enormous factor. But I don't even really think that's what it's about for her. I think that she is, like, in a state where she doesn't care what happens to her anymore.
Right.
She fucking broke her own arm in a door. Like, clearly her own well-being is not high on her list of priorities right now. And there is only one way to find out if this shit is for real.
Yeah.
There's only one way. You don't get to walk up to that box that they're going to put you in and throw something else in the box and stand there to see what happens? Yeah. You have to get in it. And that's it.
And she's totally willing to do that.
I think she is, like that's, because I was, like I said, trying to think of it from my own point of view. And I am somebody who follows things through to, like, the end mentally because I like to plan. And when I followed it through, there's no other choice if you really want to know. There's one end point here. And she knows that. She's just trying to act like she doesn't know that. Yeah. She's trying to act like once she gets to the end, she'll be able to do something or demand, like, that they show her an example or something. And even if they do, none of that's going to satisfy her.
Like, she'll be able to get an answer without having to commit or get into the contraption or whatever you want to call it. Right? Like, that's the story she's telling herself. That I'm just going to follow this to its end without actually getting in and being vaporized. I'll be able to get answers. Because even after all this time, that's really all she wants is answers.
Yeah.
When she has that argument with Kevin at the end, good God. And she says, my children didn't die, they're gone. Which has been said before, but I cannot stress how affecting that is every time she says it.
Yeah.
Like, it's just a different fucking thing to wrap your head around. The idea of your children being, even when fucking Erica says it to her, like, Evie is not gone, she's dead. I know where Evie is. It's such a hard thing for us to imagine, even though it shouldn't be. Because we get used to the idea of death as humans, right? We're, like, all accustomed to it. Everybody dies. And we accept it as sort of a natural thing that happens. But the reality is, people are born, there's a spark in the brain that we can't explain. The heart works, and we can't really explain how or why. And then one day it doesn't. Right? And the body is still there. All the organs are still there. But it's not alive anymore. Right? It's just gone. And we've gotten to a place where we kind of have all these weird, and I'm sorry if it's offensive when I say weird, but we have all these explanations for why, But the fact is, we don't really know. Like, one day a body has a heart and a brain and it's working, and then the next day the heart and the brain aren't working, and the person is gone. And we have zero explanation for that.
Yep.
But we built all these other, like, things in its place to explain what's happened and why it happened. But we really have no idea.
Nope.
If we were to approach death that way, with the how much of it we don't understand, I think we would all be as crazy as the people in the leftovers are.
I mean, I think that's what is driving so many people crazy.
And yeah, I think you might be right.
I mean, religion is fundamentally about what happens after you die. Like, most religions are not about, the focus is not on everyday works. Even as much as many of them try and claim that that's what they're about, when you, like, when you get down to it, why is it the focus on that stuff? Because of the end result being where you go after you die.
Exactly.
And that being the concern.
Yep.
So that's when people are completely wrapped up in this hypothetical after party that
After
we
party.
don't, you know, like it's
I
just.
never really thought about it that way. Now I'm like, is my hand stamped? Can I get in? Come back out?
And only some people get invited, apparently. It's just like, this is the thing that I think Satanists have right, is that their focus is on the material world.
Right.
Right? The whole thing is supposed to be on, we are where we are right now. And this is what we do while we are here, with no concern for later, because later is not real.
Mm-hmm.
Later is always later. And that's a Buddhist concept too, I guess, but they don't really like have the same sort of, their whole thing is let go of attachments. Just don't let anything matter.
Yeah.
Which, good luck with that, I guess.
Yeah, it's hard. I've tried. I tried real hard.
That's one of those things where I'm like, I mean, I suppose if you just don't let anything matter, you'll probably be happier, but like, about what? What will you be happier? Like, to me, that feels like missing the point of being alive in the first place, you know, but whatever, do what you want. But yeah, I mean, I think fundamentally when you say like being obsessed with what happens to people, that is what most people are obsessed with when it comes down to it. And I mean, and like, I think I've brought up this example in previous seasons, the idea, there are plenty of people out there who have lost loved ones and they don't know what happened to them. They are also just gone, but they could come back into their lives at any moment and have been abducted or ran off or any number of, you know, situations that, and like, would that be good or even more heartbreaking?
No, it's more heartbreaking.
Right? Like, so it's not like the way that it happens with Nora, because it is a supernatural event, because so many people also experienced it, but just not in the way that she did, most of them, it, I'm sure, undermines her grief.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
you want it to be about you, and it can't be about you.
Yep.
Even though people try and make it about you because they recognize that you had it worse.
Yeah, but it's still not, because so many other people had it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Yeah. That's the beautiful thing about what Liv Tyler's character was.
Right.
Was that her mom died of a natural causes, you know, like a real, it was a heart attack, and that's all it was. But that it happened on the same day.
Yeah.
You know, or the day before, like this other great thing happened.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to sound really fucked up. And it's something that people don't admit to often because it's in bad taste. But when something bad happens to you, at the same time something bad happens to everyone else, it lessens the thing that happened to you. Mm-hmm. You know? And you're not really allowed to talk about that in those terms because you sound like a selfish cunt.
Because you're supposed to find support through the fact that other people know what you're going through.
Right. But that's very rarely the case.
Yeah.
Because when you experience something like that, the thing about it is that it happened to you. Mm-hmm. You know? It's like fucking, God forgive me, but it's like the Me Too hashtag thing that was happening all day. Mm-hmm. You know, where people were sharing their things, but then someone would have to comment, oh, you know, that's like the thing that happened to me. Why didn't you include the thing that happened to me in your statement? Yeah, it's a weird thing where, like, when something fucked up happens to you, you want to have people be like, oh, I see that thing that happened to you, and I'm sorry for that. Mm-hmm. And it's selfish. And you don't want to be selfish, but the fact is it did just kind of happen to you. Yeah. You know, and you want a space for it to be okay, to be like, this thing happened to me, and I don't have to share it with everyone. Mm-hmm.
I think that it's just a fundamental thing where we feel like being selfish is always a bad thing.
Yeah, yeah.
And, you know, selfishness is there for a reason. And it is more, you know, pronounced in certain people and less discerning in certain people. But grief is like an open mouth that will never stop being hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't get to just be like, oh, I'm done now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's done. Like, so part of what Kevin says to her, I understood what he meant, but another part of me was like, oh my God, you just don't get it, dude. You just don't. Like, it's just,
yeah.
She never got to grieve, really.
Yeah.
She got this weird celebrity out of it, this like perverted thing that was kind of ghoulish.
Yeah.
You know, but not really. Like, she was like pawed at, it feels like, you know, interviewed and like put on this weird pedestal in the town where she's making the speeches to everyone.
And it's like that pedestal she ended up on had to take the place of a real grief, you know, and like a real space to grieve. Because people don't want to give you that. They'll give you the pedestal of being like, you know, Nora cursed. They'll give you that, but they won't give you the space to really be like, well, shit, my whole fucking family's gone, and how am I supposed to deal with that? Because, you know, as fellow human beings, we're also limited, and we really don't want to give people that space, because in order to give them that space, we have to make room in ourselves to do it. Yeah. And you got to start dealing with your own shit, and we don't like that.
Sure don't.
You know what I mean? So, yeah.
That was something that I really like had to come to terms with. Like, I didn't realize how much I was avoiding grieving for my dad in the moment, but there was a whole other thing going on in my life that I attributed heartbreak to, that I look back now and I'm like, oh, I wasn't heartbroken over that. I was heartbroken over my dad. Girl. But for some reason, I could not let myself see that that was it. And so I forced all of that feeling onto this other thing that wasn't actually a big deal at all.
Right, right.
And when I finally actually divorced, I knew in my heart, this is the right thing to do. And we will be happier now. And I am making the correct choice for both of us. He agrees with this choice. We are mutually splitting apart. So we should both be fine. That was how my fucking stupid ass head worked. Like, I know perfectly well that I should not be fine. I, like, in a logical way, when I stop and think about it, I'm like, no, you're still uprooting your entire life, ending a relationship that had lasted for 8 or 9 years, and changing everything about how you see yourself in the world. Of course, this is going to be horrifically difficult. But something about, like, how it happened made me go, well, I don't get to be mad. I chose to do this. I don't get to be upset. And so then it would suddenly creep up on me when I'm sitting at my desk at work, or going into the walk-in freezer for something, or I'm waiting on a customer and a song comes on and I have to run in back and sob until my eye makeup is gone, because I don't want to have that, like, I can't have that feeling. I'm not allowed to have it for whatever reason. And that's 100% what I see with Nora. Like, you know, she feels like everybody gave me a bunch of attention. That is what I was looking for, right? So that's it. So I'm done. And I have to be done. But she never really facing that she's not done and she won't ever be done. And she hasn't even started to begin actually feeling this. Yeah.
And she is so resentful of the attention that she's both craved and facilitated, but also hates that she gets. You know what I mean? Like, one of the things Kevin says is, oh, you're afraid people won't feel sorry for you anymore. And she's like, I don't want people to feel sorry for me. And you believe that. Like, I know she means that. But at the same time, what else is there? Like, what other emotions does she have to offer in place of people feeling sorry for her?
Mm-hmm. I mean, really what it is I don't want people to feel sorry for me. I want to feel sorry.
Yeah.
But I'm not allowed. Because I have to move on from this. Because you don't like it.
Yep.
And that's just tiresome. To have to hide grief because your partner is done with it.
Yeah.
And I have, like, luckily, I am not at all in that position. But I have known a couple people who were in relationships when they suffered losses. And their partners told them that they had gotten tired of it and that they needed to get over it. Like, basically exactly what Kevin says to her.
Yeah.
And that is just unforgivable to me. Like, you don't get to say shit like that to somebody. And I mean, there are times where people can wallow for too long. I completely acknowledge that that is a thing where you don't, like, somebody just seems to be sitting in it and not, you know, but like in these cases, I don't think that was what was happening. And it was kind of a symptom of a relationship in which that relationship had been very one-sided from the beginning. And it wasn't until someone actually needed something from their partner in a real way because of this loss that their partner outed themselves as being unwilling to give it.
Yeah. I think we see in this episode that Kevin is, like, he follows Nora to Australia, clearly because he's got his own shit that he doesn't want to deal with, right? Like, I'm not putting all this on Nora. But he also follows her because he knows on some level that she is leaving him.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. So it's like this weird desperation.
Yeah.
You know, which is also sad.
Yeah. I mean, that's him needing to deal with some grief.
Yeah, true that.
Everybody's a fucking mess, in summary. Thanks for coming, everyone. Have a good week.
See you next time.
So yeah, then we have, to get back to Kevin, he goes to the library because after calling Lori, she tells him that's where Evie had worked for a while. How does she do that? Like, does she use the facial recognition from the photo that he sent her to find out who this girl is?
Well, he gives her the girl's name the first time he calls her.
Oh, right. The name that Evie said she...
Yeah. And
right.
she pulls her up on Facebook immediately and sees the girl works at the library. And she's like, did you meet her at the library? Which isn't what happened, but Kevin, like, zeroes in on that. He's like, why'd you say library? Mm-hmm. So he goes right to the library and finds the poor girl. And by this time, Lori has contacted the girl and convinced her to play along with Kevin's delusion.
Yeah, which is like a fucking ballsy move,
yeah.
Man.
So that goes on for a while. Kevin gets really aggressive, like scarily so. Mm-hmm. And then...
the girl at the front desk calls security on him and says, you're acting weird.
Yeah, she's fucking right to do it, too.
Yeah, she is.
And it turns out that the girl's playing along, you know, per Lori's instructions. And then Lori gets Kevin to look at the picture, and he realizes that this is not Evie at all. Mm-hmm. And that he is having yet another breakdown.
Yeah. This is like, she doesn't look like Evie. Like, it's nothing. No, this is not an understandable mistake. This is a delusion. Straight up.
A straight up delusion. And it makes Lori ask, how are things with Nora? Because it seems like the delusion kind of comes out of nowhere. Because as far as we know, Kevin seems fine this season. Mm-hmm. Except the part where he runs to Australia.
Except for the part where he's trying to kill himself.
And that too. So he realizes that it's not Evie. The girl leaves because that's what you do. Mm-hmm. And he's just sort of sitting there, not understanding why all this is happening again. And he makes his way back to the hotel room, and Nora's in the hotel room freaking out from her deal.
Yeah. Smoking.
Yeah, smoking, putting the foil up on the smoke detector. I don't know why that's a thing, but putting foil up, she's freaking out, and then they have their
blowout.
Yeah, and it's bad.
It's really bad. Like, and I really see, like, the thing with Kevin is that I think he's misunderstanding what Nora's going through, because how could he get it? There's no possible way. And he is just fucking resentful of her. And he doesn't understand
right
where his resentment is even coming from. So he's assigning it to her grief.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, like, and I don't think he's, like, totally incorrect. I just think that it's not in the way that he thinks. Because what it is he thinks that she's not moving past it, when in fact she hasn't even, like, started to deal with it.
Right.
But I don't think he really gets that, because it's happened so long ago at this point.
Yeah, for him.
Yeah, 7 years. I mean, for him, how can you have not dealt with their disappearance 7 years later?
Yeah.
But guess what, buddy? You don't have to deal with shit ever if you don't feel like it. You just have to live your life in utter pain. Whatever. Plenty of people do that. So I think he just, like, throws this in her face because it's as close as he can get to the truth. Yeah.
And it's that thing where you reach for whatever is going to be the most hurtful.
Mm-hmm.
And he basically yells at her that they don't talk about anything. And she asks him about Lily,
Yeah, this was interesting. Like, she's angry that he didn't stop her.
And he says, I never had a chance. You didn't ask me.
Yeah.
Which sort of feels like something Nora would do.
Yeah, totally does.
Even though we didn't see it, I feel like, that shit kind of happened.
Yeah, when he says, like, you just did what you wanted. You didn't even ask me. I didn't get a chance to say anything. Yeah. I was like, oh, that sounds right.
Yeah, same.
And that begs the question, why wouldn't she ask him? Because she straight up doesn't feel like she's with him. He doesn't matter.
Yeah, and we see it in this episode, but we've seen it before too last season, where she bought the house without talking to him about it. So
true.
this is not like new behavior for her.
Yeah.
As much as I love Nora and Kevin, and I really goddamn do. I really do. I don't know if they never managed, and it's not their fault, but they never really managed to be like a team. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like, it was always one of them doing what the one wanted, and then the other one just sort of going along with it.
Yeah.
So when he says to her, you never even asked me, I didn't doubt it for a second. Not even a second. I was like, yeah, Nora did that shit. Nora made a decision to get the baby back and told Kevin, fuck you and fuck your feelings. Don't even talk to me about it. I don't care what you think.
And, like, honestly, I wouldn't want to tell him after the way he's reacted to me losing my kids.
Yeah.
Because I think she's got to feel his frustration that she hasn't moved past this yet.
I think that's fair. Yeah.
So if you can feel somebody being resentful of your grief about your family, and you have made a decision to give your kid up, you're not going to bring that up with them, because then they're just going to be resentful over this other thing.
Yeah.
Which apparently he was anyway, so it didn't really work.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't seem like he gave her any reason to believe that she could trust him with this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, I 100% believe that she didn't think that he could handle the pain that she would have that would be involved with giving Lily up. Mm-hmm. So she just shut him out of it.
Yep. Yeah, it's actually, because I was talking earlier about how he's gone through all this supernatural shit that there's no reason for her to understand any of that. And she has gone through one supernatural event that is so life-changing, and there is no reason for him to understand that.
Yeah, agreed.
They have both got completely different perspectives on the world because of a thing that's been going on with them that cannot possibly be shared with the other person.
Yeah, I think you're right. Oh, excuse me. Sorry.
How dare you? Am I keeping you awake? I'm going to be like my elementary school teacher. But yeah, like that I think is really, oh God, I'm getting a little emotional here. That I think is what makes relationships fall apart.
Yeah.
Is when you feel like this other person cannot understand me.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can try, and I know they will try, and I know they mean it when they say they try, but they just aren't going to be able to do it. That this is just not them.
And when you have that moment where you have to face that,
yep,
it is the worst.
It's the worst. Like, and that's something that when I finally talked to Brendan and like, I just said it and I was like, oh my God, that's it. I was so lonely. I felt alone.
Yeah.
There were things that he could not connect with me on. And they were the things that mattered to me the most.
Mm-hmm. That's how it is.
And if somebody can't meet you there, it's difficult to see sometimes, I think, what is the most important to you.
Yeah.
It takes a while for you to get used to the idea that, you know what, this is actually a non-negotiable for me. I thought I could do without it, but I can't. I have to have this.
Yeah.
And we do a lot of changing and growing as people, and what our non-negotiables are can take forever to surface, or they can change because we've gone through a life-changing thing. So all of a sudden everything, the whole terrain of what our priorities are is different now. And that is what happened in our relationship. Things just shifted for me completely. And I realized with this sudden clarity, none of this stuff is what matters to you.
Yeah.
And it's not like a fault. People have different things that they care about, you know?
That's the thing too, is like, it's not always like, oh, it's your fault, you're terrible. You know? It's just a realization that, oh shit, we're just like on two different sides. Like we're just on two different fucking planes of the same thing. Like you're on your side and you see it and you think it matters and it works, but the other person is on the other side and you're just like, oh, I don't even know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. And it sucks because I remember when I used to know what you were talking about. Yeah.
Yeah, it's also kind of like frightening because once you realize that about yourself, that you're in a different place from your partner, that also rules out a whole group of people, like potentially that you could be with.
Girl, please.
Like, you know what I mean? It just shifts everything. And if you can find somebody, I found Owen, and his thing, like, there are just moments where we look at each other and I'm like, I know that he knows. He gets it. We are just, the things that matter to me matter to him. And I just know that on this like fundamental level that is just impossible to explain. But I think it's with this couple, they don't even know.
No.
So how could they ask that of the other person? Because they haven't stopped to ask themselves that yet. They've been just basically spending all of these years scrambling to like get some semblance of normalcy back without asking, what does normalcy even mean to me anymore?
And that's why when it comes up, it's so heartbreaking and shocking because you realize these motherfuckers haven't talked about it yet.
Yep.
All this time, and they haven't talked about any of this yet.
Yep.
Like, there were huge chunks that we didn't get to see, between in the seasons and between what they didn't show us that we took for granted. And then we have this moment where we realize this shit never happened. Mm-hmm. Never mind it happened off screen. It never happened.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, is just expecting time to like default to, we grew to love and understand each other, that's just what's going to happen over time. You have to make that shit happen.
Yep.
And in order to make it happen, you have to be really uncomfortable, like a lot.
Yeah. And most folks aren't like prepared to do that.
No. Which is ironic because they think by doing that they are avoiding being uncomfortable when in fact they're just deciding to live with low-level discomfort forever.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like, you could just go through this one traumatic thing and then start to come back to being okay and be mostly okay. Or you could just low-key be miserable just on a like lower frequency.
Right.
But just always.
Right. Until it finally comes out.
Yeah. Because inevitably it will. And then that'll be like way more painful because you just had to like bottle it down so much that by the time it gets out, there's like a wall it has to break through. And so it's basically it's like an injury once it happens.
Pretty much.
You know?
And that's exactly how that scene played. It felt like all the shit they had been wanting to say to each other that they didn't want to say because they didn't want to be hurtful and spiteful. Mm-hmm. Finally comes out and it's brutal when it comes out. Oh my God.
That their acting in that scene was just so like,
yeah.
Because even then, they're not saying everything.
Nope.
You know, it's astonishing. They finally have this like unbridled fuck you moment, and they still can't just say shit.
Withholding everything that's important.
Yeah.
And when he walks out and the door closes behind him and he doesn't look back, you're just like, Jesus Christ. And you don't even. So he leaves the hotel. The hotel's in like fucking, you know, there's a fire in their room and you feel like that's the whole emergency. But when he gets outside, you realize something else has happened.
Yeah, that was super surprising.
Right? So he leaves the hotel and Kevin Sr. pulls up with Grace.
God.
Because they'd seen him on the fucking Good Day Melbourne. And they come looking for him. And he gets in the car with Kevin Sr. and Grace. And then there's a shot of Nora in the hotel room.
Oh, my God.
Oh, my God. How beautiful was this shot? How beautiful.
That was crazy.
And, like, fucking just ripped your heart right out. Oh, my God.
And her, like, so the water from the sprinklers off her eyelashes.
Yes.
Which is so great because she's not crying. You know she's not crying.
I died.
She's fucking not crying. She can't cry. Like, she's, like, frozen solid.
Yeah. It was one of the most beautiful shots I've seen on television in a long time. It really was. And it's just like the water from the whatever fire.
It's like it has to substitute for her emotion.
Yeah, because she's got nothing.
She's got nothing.
She's got nothing. And Kevin gets in the car with Kevin Sr. and who when Nora asked him earlier in the episode, are you going to go try to find him? Kevin is like, I don't know where the fuck he is. If he cared, he would have let me know. But then he shows up.
And I'm just thinking, Kevin, don't get in the car with that lady. She was going to kill you.
Yeah.
She's going to try again.
Didn't you watch the news? Kevins aren't safe.
Yeah, right?
But,
yeah, and his dad is like, are you here alone? And he says, yeah. And I was like,
yeah, that's all you needed to know. Kevin's like, is this real? Because Kevin doesn't know what the fuck's happening.
True. Yeah, and when you point out, like, he doesn't look over his shoulder when he's walking out that door because he knows perfectly well she's not coming after him because she's already out of this.
That shit, that door shuts behind him. He does not look back.
Nope. Oh. And not only would she not come after him, and he knows that she's not gonna. If she did, he knows that she would be full of shit.
Yep.
I think, you know, like. Yeah.
And it just ends with her sitting on the bed, and it does this really weird fade out, which I wish I had a better vocabulary to describe it, guys, but I don't. But it does this weird sort of, the light around her goes dark and she's the last part to go dark.
Mm-hmm. Well, what happened at first when the water's like coming down is each of the lamps goes out.
You're right. That's right. It did.
Yeah, because of the water just shorting them, you know. So eventually the camera focuses in on her face because there's like one last light left coming from the fire because Kevin lit the book on fire in the sink. Because she's trying to tell him, I think you like it about this thing, not knowing that this is all true.
Yeah, she doesn't know.
Yeah.
She doesn't know. And I guess, like I said earlier, just because the stuff is in the book and we imagine that Kevin told Michael told Matt, and John filled in the blanks. But Nora really is like, this is all made up. Mm-hmm. This didn't happen. she doesn't know about what he went through all this time later. And we're supposed to believe they have a healthy, happy relationship.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, the show.
Yeah, it's just such a, like, because a part of me, for just a second, when she's like, I think you like it, I was like, huh, does he? But then I remembered, no, this isn't made up shit. This is real shit that happened to him that makes him sound bananas.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, there's no good that can come of this.
This is stuff that if he had any control, no one would know.
Right, exactly.
This is like his deepest, darkest, lowest point that someone has laid bare in a book that he has no control over. Mm-hmm. That is just out in the world for people to read now, even if it's just Nora. You know? Who is the one person you think he would want to share this with? And if he had any ability to, he would have, but he just does not have it in him to relate this story to her. And to hear her, the person he loves the most, kind of mock it.
Yeah.
You know, because she doesn't fucking know. Yeah.
That when she like, I just, again, why would she ever think this is true?
Yeah.
You know, him pushing a little girl into a well.
Like,
crazy.
What? It's crazy, right? Like, she's not the bad guy for thinking it's bananas.
No.
But, yeah. Oh. Yeah. It's a lot. And it was hard to watch today, considering how much the real world is garbage.
Yeah, true that. I know, I kind of wondered, like, when he gets confronted by when he's chasing who he thinks is Evie, and that dude is like, oh, is he bothering you? I wondered if that guy was going to assume that Kevin was harassing her because she wore a headscarf and was Muslim.
Oh, interesting.
You know, like, I was like, is this going to turn into that? Yeah. But that doesn't even come up.
Kevin was so surprised that dude could see the girl.
Right?
Kevin
I know.
was so sure. He's like, wait, you can see her?
He just stops dead. And then just assumes, like, oh, well, then she must have just, like, faked her own death. Like, what?
Yeah. He was like, why are you here? Why are you doing this? Your dad misses you. Like, it was a personal affront that Evie was out here having a whole other life while people were missing her at home. And, yeah, Kevin, I don't know. Like, I don't know. If that was really Evie, if you really, what did you think she was doing? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That was my main question is, what did he, I guess maybe he just thought, like, I don't need to know why, but that's why I'm asking her why, you know?
And
like,
there was a thing that Lori said, too, about running away, and she mentions Evie in it, too. Like, these are people who have done the thing that you want to do. You want to just run away. You don't want to be in this life anymore. So,
don't blame you, son.
No shit, right? Your life is garbage.
Yeah, it seems like it just sucks in general.
You know, you're hot as fuck, but it's garbage.
Oh my god.
Oh my god, what is he?
Listen.
Okay, we talked about this before. We don't have to go into it again. But it is known he's hot as fuck.
It is ridiculous. Like, I just need him to stop, please, because I can't.
It's too much.
I don't understand.
It's like he doesn't care about his mere mortals out here watching the show.
That really does feel like it. Like, you aren't part of our race of regular fucking mortal beings. So why don't you just get lost, buddy? We don't need this. Shove it in our face. Like, ugh. I think I just have, like, I'm realizing my weak spot is a combo of a beard and really luminous eyes. Owen has that. He's got, like, his glasses hide it, but his eyes are amazing.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the beard, but
I know you're not. Just shut up. Just stop.
I'll be quiet.
Listen, stop it. That beard is everything. When she's looking at their IDs at the beginning of the episode and he's all clean shaven in his ID photo, I was just like, ugh.
I love it. I like when he's clean shaven.
No. I mean, he's still fine as hell, but he just doesn't do it for me the way that he does when he's got a beard. It's totally different, you know? It's just like, oh my God. He purdy.
He is purdy.
Anyway.
Anywho.
So that's that episode.
That's
is everything.
Yeah.
That was intense.
It was a lot.
I'm not ready for it.
And then we're halfway through now. That was episode 4.
Jesus.
Only got 8 in it, so we're almost done.
Well, guys, let me check and see if we have any new reviews. I don't think we do. I just want to say thank you to everybody for listening and for leaving your commentary and whatnot. We always appreciate that. You know where to find us: Facebook.com/unspoiledpod, Twitter @unspoiledshow, Instagram @unspoiledpodcast. And I feel like there was another announcement that I wanted to make this time, but I do not remember what it was. But yeah, I'm just like, this show was just not what I expected.
Yeah.
You know, and I said earlier, I'm not ready. I'm not ready. I don't know what the hell to expect for the second half of this season, because
I cannot wait.
This show goes off into its own entire solar system.
It really does. It's created its own fucking universe. I love it so much. I can't wait.
Let's see. Yeah, we don't have any new reviews. We only have 8 reviews for this show. Guys, get on that shit. Come on. Pick it up. But I hope that y'all are enjoying it, and look, show us some support. Leave a review. Shop on Amazon, unspoiledpodcast.com/Amazon, and generally just be awesome. Keep being your awesome selves. That's all we're asking. We love you all. Thanks for listening, everybody. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
1, 2, 3,
4. That was an Unspoiled Network podcast.